Based on Good King Wenceslas. Alright. A Change is Made by Darth Will 3. Because of course they're named Darth Will 3 if they're doing a Star Wars crossover. Land Before Time or otherwise. Published August... Ooh. Published August 3rd, 2009. Darth Will... I can't do the :3 face. Running for her life, Sarah hoped that the Sharptooth wasn't going to be on her tracks now that he had woken up. Luckily, she ran fast enough to escape and find a way out of the earthquake gap. Sarah, now inside a dark cave for shelter, began wondering how things would have gone differently. This is a sterling start. How could I be so stupid, she huffed, pacing in circles. Why did I have to wake up that dumb Sharptooth? It's not my fault he survived the fall. Then she stopped. Maybe I should have brought... Sarah thought of Littlefoot, the young long-neck she met yesterday. He didn't seem bad to her. Neither was his mother. She helped the two children escape from the Sharptooth not too long ago, even though she got badly hurt during the battle. Where was she anyway? Did she and Littlefoot get separated from each other too during the earthquake? He never even told Sarah about what happened afterwards when they last met. So this takes place like right after the events at the start of the first movie, I guess? I don't know. Then Sarah remembered when Littlefoot offered to help her while searched for Great Valley, but she refused. But now that she woke up the Sharptooth... I keep thinking that says Sephiroth. They keep capitalizing Sharptooth, because I guess it's the dinosaur's name. I thought it was just the dinosaur species. But they keep capitalizing Sharptooth, and I keep thinking it says Sephiroth. Based on Grandma got run over by a reindeer. I mean, Littlefoot's mom got run over by a Sharptooth. It's kind of... yeah. But now that she woke up the Sharptooth, what killed the dinosaurs? Sephiroth. What killed the dinosaurs? Sephiroth. But now that she woke up the Sharptooth with her carelessness, perhaps Littlefoot would have talked her out of it or something if he'd come along. Nah, who am I kidding, she said, dismissing the thought from her mind. I don't need no long necks to back me up. Like Daddy said, those flatheads have very small brains. We three horns hardly need help from anyone. Besides, I can find the Great Valley on my own. Then a cold blast of wind hurtled past Sarah. She had never experienced a breeze like that before. It instantly froze in her entire system within seconds, then quickly thawed away. What? Brrr, I might not be able to make it alone with this kind of wind, she shivered, but at least it's gone now. There was worst to come, for what seemed to be bright outside the cave was now covered by darkness. It looked to Sarah as if the cave was closing in from behind her, trapping her in endless night. Okay, she said, trying to stay calm, this is just getting weirder. Suddenly, she heard something coming from the cave entrance. There was a faint clanking noise outside. It wasn't like any sound she'd ever heard before, but whatever it was, it began to get louder and louder. Hey, Fanfic, leave darkness alone. Hashtag leave darkness alone. Uh-oh. At that instant, Sarah knew what that meant. The noise was getting closer, right in her own direction. She ran, looking for any corner to hide in this cave. Unfortunately, the search went in vain, for there was none to be found. She was trapped at a dead end. Great! Great! Exclaimed Sarah, terrified. Just great! Why did I choose this cave in the first place? Then she heard the noise closing in, slowly by the second. She couldn't see what the being of that dreadful sound was. Until right now. That is its own paragraph? Its own sentence, its own paragraph. Until right now. In an instance, a white figure filled in through the darkness and lifted his arms, giving out a ghostly wail. W-A-L-E. A ghostly wail that echoed across the cave. It was the skeleton of a Struthamimus, wearing some sort of long sheet that would be known as a nightgown. What? that would be known as a nightgown. It's the average video games fan. Yeah, he's here now. It's the skeleton of a Struthamimus wearing a nightgown. I don't know what to tell you. On its head was long white hair, rising up high and wavering wildly like fire. Captive bound and double ironed around the being was a set of rock-made chains, each ending with a ball that weighed a ton. Hearing that goblin-like wail, again W-A-L-E, Sarah quickly cuddled up against the wall, trembling with fear. Just get this done already, she cried out, stuttering slightly. What do you want? What do you want with me? Much, said the specter in a long, windy tone. Sarah gulped. Who are you? Don't you recognize me? The specter asked in a little louder and clearer range. No. In life, I was your father. In life, I was your father's business partner, Mako Loan Shark. 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 No, Loan Shark is one. That's his name. Mako Loan Shark. I don't know. Sarah was startled to hear that name. Could it be? No, it was impossible. She and her family were there at Mako's funeral about 3 months ago. There was no way he could have just been raised from the grave and allowed to roam free as a ghost. It's impossible. It's impossible that he rise from the grave and wandered around as a ghost. But it was hard to deny such an existence. The ghost had Mako's voice, Mako's size, and even Mako's blue eyes, which were glowing from the skull sockets. Mako? Sarah inquired meekly. She started walking up to the ghost with caution. Mako, is it really you? Yes, my dear Sarah, it is I, replied the ghost in a gentle voice Sarah often heard from him when he's alive. Do not be frightened. I have no intention of harming you, nor would I have done any as I had... I have no intention of harming you, nor would I have done any as I had lived. I don't know why this is... We're waiting for the Star Wars. Voice of Dog! What's up? What's up, Voice of Dog? How you doing? We're doing a fanfiction reading. Some dinosaur fanfiction. Welcome in, Voice of Dog and friends. You will regret that. We're currently reading a Land Before Time and Star Wars crossover, and wondering why it's a Star Wars crossover. There's been no Star Wars. Also, it's based on A Christmas Carol. This is very convoluted. Yeah. I've got... The Voice of Dog sent 33 folks into the Cursed Lands. Anyway, back to the... I have no intention of harming you, nor would I have done any as I had lived. That's a sentence. I don't understand, Sarah put in, now choosing the question carefully. Why are you here now? How is it possible? I mean, you've been dead for 3 long months. Yes, Mako began to moan, almost as if he was going to cry. 3 dreadful months I have suffered after death. Not one shred of rest or peace has been given to me. Not once have I looked back on the deeds I have wrought while working with your father. Of the greed I have grown inside me, the misery I have placed on others. I can never forgive myself for those things. Sarah was taken aback. Throughout most of her life, she was led to believe her father's old partner and friend had done his work out of charity. But Daddy said you made some pretty smart ideas for everyone, Mako. You were an icon, a hero, a real... No! Mako bellowed furiously. I was wrong! Sarah, shaken and confused from the outburst, observed Mako placing his hands on the set of coils that covered him. And so, he continued, as punishment, I am forced to wear and carry these heavy chains I forged in life for all eternity. Gee, Sarah said, softening up a bit, I'm sorry that things aren't going well. Wow, you're a ghost eternally attached to these chains? I'm sorry to hear that. Can I help you in some way? I'm sorry things are going poorly. I hope they get better for you. You're eternally damned. Wah wah. Then suddenly she let out a shriek as one of the chains coiled around her and brought her towards Mako in midair. You know, so I looked it up. I looked it up on Google. There is no Mako Loan Shark. That's not a character. I thought that might be like a Star Wars character. Like one of those fucking one of those extended universe characters that no one fucking knows about. No, there's no Mako Loan Shark that I can find with a cursory Google search. So I still don't know why this is Star Wars related. We may never know why this is Star Wars related. And suddenly she let out a shriek as one of the chains coiled around her and brought her towards Mako in midair. Just look at me, moaned Mako, covering his face with his hands. I am doomed, doomed. His voice then changed to a more scornful tone as he pointed his right index finger at the young three-horn. And the same thing will happen to... And the same thing will happen to you, Sarah Jessica Parker Three-Horn. I'm gonna fucking stab myself in the goddamn face. Yeah, that's the right reaction. You're correct. You are correct, folks. This is what it said. That's what it said. Her name's already a pun. Sarah Triceratops. Fucking Sarah Jessica Parker Three-Horn. Fucking fuck. Mamma mia, stuttered Sarah, her heartbeat in a quicker pace from terror. But what did I do? After just a 4-second pause, Mako chuckled under his breath. Just like your father, I see, he said half mockingly. Even if I told you, you wouldn't believe me for a second. So you'll just have to find out on your own, one way or the other. Then he motioned the chain holding Sarah to lower her down to the ground gently so that she may land on her feet. Hear me, Sarah, he spoke in a stern voice. I am simply here to warn you that you might have the slightest chance to escape my fate. You'll be taken into some visions of the future. Future? Sarah couldn't believe what Mako was talking about. He must be joking. She said, trying to get herself out of the situation. I think I may have already had enough magic for one day. Indeed, said Mako, which is why you shall meet your host tomorrow. But can't I just have this guy here now and get it done with? Learn from what these shadows will show you, Mako continued, casting aside Sarah's suggestion. Do as what your host will say, or your chains will be, in your kind's case, 3 times bigger, heavier, and longer than mine. Sarah shuddered to even think about what would happen, and before she realized it, Mako had gone, with the sound of his dragging chains heading towards the cave entrance. Mako, wait! Sarah rushed outside as the darkness vanished into thin air. Don't leave me! I'll be all alone! You'll never be alone, called Mako's voice from above. Just remember what's happened between us. The two of you will meet when the time is right. There was an ellipsis there. Silence fell, not a sound of clanking to be heard any longer. Sarah was beginning to wonder what host she would soon encounter when a big roar ran through her ears. She recognized it almost immediately. Sharptooth! She was so scared that she ran as fast as her feet could carry her. That monster must have been about a mile away from her by now. How could he have gotten out of that big ravine by himself? That didn't matter, because what concerned Sarah the most was how to get out of here. When Sarah caught up with Littlefoot, she warned him about the Sharptooth, but he refused to believe the beast was still alive. She was about to tell him about Mako's ghost when a thought came to her mind. What was she thinking? Littlefoot would think she was out of her mind, so in order to keep... Yeah, I read that right. So in order to prevent any self-embarrassing, she decided to keep this to herself. Afterwards, the young dinosaurs set off to find the Great Valley. Sarah was not really into introductions with the swimmer Ducky, Petrie the invalid flyer, and the recently hatched Spiketail Spike, whom Ducky found when Sarah had catapulted her by accident. She was deep in thought about her encounter with Mako Loanshark. Was it real? Could Sarah have been seeing things? Did the fear from Sharptooth's awakening cause this to happen? Or was it some memories of Mako that made it appear to her? She really didn't know how to put this. But there was one answer to see whether or not it really happened. The appearance of the host who would show the future. Sarah was to meet him, or her, by the next day. When the time is right were Mako's last words before he left. By now, Sarah was not so sure if she wanted to go through with this. End of chapter 1. Where's the Star Wars? Where's the Star Wars? This is supposed to be a Star Wars crossfic. Where's the fucking Star Wars? In outer space, you got me there. You got me. I can't argue with that one. You're right. You're right. Like, I get the Christmas. This is just a Christmas Carol Land Before Time crossover so far. Anyway, Act 2, Scene 1. The Dark Host approaches. Ooh. There are 3 acts, and for some reason, Act 1 and Act 3 are both 1 chapter each, but Act 2 is 5 chapters. So I don't know. Anyway, Act 2, Scene 1, A Dark Host approaches. Oh, maybe Darth Vader will be in this chapter, huh? Maybe the Death Star is gonna show up and kill all the dinosaurs. Hi, Nikasaur. What's up? You're here for A Change Is Made, a Star Wars Land Before Time crossover, based on A Christmas Carol. Yeah. Let's see. Act 2, Scene 1, The Dark Host approaches. A day and a few hours had passed since she and Littlefoot met their new companions, and Sarah just couldn't understand the events of what happened the previous day. She was just lying down in the caves which had a nearby waterfall, sobbing it all out. How did everything seem to fall apart? She looked back on this morning and these last few hours. Dino-Summer was a bad idea. And we're gonna do it again, that's the worst part. I know I'm gonna do it. It all happened this morning. Littlefoot, Sarah, Ducky, Petrie, and Spike had narrowly escaped the Sharptooth, who had happened to have found and attacked their resting spot. Ever since then, Sarah's issues with Littlefoot grew tense. Nobody's safe with you, she spat at him. She hadn't met any of that, to be honest. She hated when her warning had been ignored. One way or the other, she thought, things would have to show themselves eventually. A few moments after that, when the children found what might have been the Great Valley was just a circled landscape, Sarah had had enough. When she decided that she was going to take the... Okay, you know what? Yes, that's absolutely gonna be what it is. The ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future are all gonna be fucking Star Wars characters for some reason. For absolutely no reason. That's absolutely gonna be what happens here. I'm calling it now. It's gotta be that, right? How else is Star Wars gonna fit into this? Unless it really is just like the Death Star shows up. Or like R2-D2 comes up and shows Princess Leia's message to Sarah and Littlefoot. Help me, Littlefoot. You're our only hope. Anyway, Sarah's comment, however, made Littlefoot attack her in a blind rage, which started a fight between the two. Even though he was no match for Sarah because he didn't have her fighting experience, she really had to give him credit to... She really had to give him credit for pick a scuffle with her. When Sarah started leaving Littlefoot after the fight, even if she had won a physical victory, the words he had shouted at her have dealt several blows into her heart. We never wanted you with us anyway. It was like Littlefoot had shown her true feelings toward her or something. Did she really deserve this? To be rejected, hated, shown without compassion? However, she used her pride to hide these true facial expressions as if nothing had happened. A few hours later, as Ducky, Petrie, and Spike started following Sarah for the easiest, less exhausting way, Sarah takes 20d6 psychic damage. It turned out to be dangerous because of the volcanic activity and the tar pits nearby. Things got worse in a few details. One, when Spike's usually inescapable hunger for nearby food got him and Ducky separated from the others. Two, when Sarah jumped over a tar pit with Petrie on her back, to which the force of the leaf made Petrie slip, and because of his inability to fly, fall into the tar below. The problem was that she didn't even notice that it happened. Why she was unable to sense this, it was hard to say. This is just the movie now. This is just The Land Before Time. That's just a scene from The Land Before Time, where Sarah and Littlefoot split off and then Sarah goes to the tar pits and everyone almost fucking dies. That's just the movie. Then it happened. Oh, wait, no. By the time Sarah realized the others were gone when she arrived at the caves, she panicked. She didn't know how to solve this unfortunate turn of events. When she made up her mind to go back and look for the others, a trio of Pachycephalosaurus, known as Dome Heads, saw a chance for target practice and ambushed her. Sarah ran for dear life as the Dome Heads began toying with her in an aggressive manner. She cried for help, but it seemed her calls wouldn't be heard for miles. I don't think it's a troll fic. This was made in 2009. Like, that's a little early for troll fics, right? Also, like, I feel like I can usually, like, the Christian Harry Potter one was obviously a troll fic. This I don't think is. Like, I feel like at this point I can kind of tell when the author, like, actually knows what they're doing and then is just blowing smoke up our asses. This is, like, a little bit too poorly written for trolling, yeah. I agree with Cactus on this one. It doesn't have enough, it also doesn't have, like, enough off-kilter weird shit on it. It needs more Garfield. I looked, by the way, I checked. Shakespeare Hemingway has never written a dinosaur fanfic, which is a real fucking shame, because God, I could always use some Shakespeare Hemingway in my life. But sadly, it's not to be. The worst fucking Christmas. Anyway, then it happened. The Dome Heads had Sarah trapped, and just when they were about to continue their sadistic exercise, what they had seen made them retreat out of the caves for good. Sarah, however, never saw the dark, mysteriously horrifying creature before. It was as tall as those Dome Heads and looked slimy all around. At that moment, a thought came into her head. Was this the creature I know, Garfield never went to the Stone Age and banged King T-Rex's wife. Was this creature the host of which Mako Loan Shark had told her to expect? The host that would take her into the future? Was the time right? It was too terrifying for her to ask that creature about it. She started crying out for her companions, even if she thought it was becoming useless. Is this gonna be fucking Darth Vader? No. At last, the realization came to her. It wasn't actually... Oh, this is also from the movie. No. At last, the realization came to her. It wasn't actually a monster. Under all that was revealed to be Tar was Ducky, Spike, Petrie, and Littlefoot. She was glad to see them all in one piece, but Littlefoot's presence was a surprise to Sarah. She didn't expect him to come to her rescue. After all their arguments, did he just come up with this tar monster idea to save her? Was he willing to make amends with her? Then, what Sarah heard made her believe that she got all her hopes up. They were laughing at her. Laughing! So this was Littlefoot's plan all along? To make her feel humiliated by scaring her? To take revenge for all her arrogant ways? Her heart was dealing more blows than it could take. Did the others find out about her encounter with Mako? No, she thought that was impossible. She never even spoke a word of this to anyone, but whatever she may think, she knew that she had gone too far. You know, in the actual movie, Sarah was just kind of a dick for a little while. She wasn't like some inhuman monster. Well, she is an inhuman monster. She's a dinosaur, but you know what I mean. I feel like this might be going a little too far. As punishment for Sarah being kind of a dick to Littlefoot a couple. The first tsundere. Tsundere-sops. Yeah, that pun didn't really work at all, but I don't know. It's just as good a pun as Sarah Jessica Parker Threethorn, okay? What's come over me? Sarah whispered to herself. Why was I so stupid? Well, I guess this is how I'm gonna live. Then she went into a dreamless, tormented sleep. However, that was about to change. As the moon stood in the middle of the night sky, As the moon stood in the middle of the night sky, which stood for midnight. Who knew? Sarah woke up as the sound of the rushing waterfall fell silent. That was a bit odd for something like that to happen. That's no moon. Oh, is it the Death Star? Well, said Sarah, at least I could get a little beauty sleep. But before she could lie down, a familiar voice had blown through her like wind. When the time is right. Mako? Sarah was so taken aback by this that she couldn't speak another word. In an instant, everything went black like the day before in the previous cave, only much blacker. And a stream of violet mist hovered around Sarah's feet. It had some sort of power that made her feel good. Yeah, I fucking... It held some sort of power that made her feel good. Yet, as she realized what that power held, she turned away from it. She didn't like this, not one bit. The mist was filled with fear. Then fear went to anger. Then anger into hate. And hate into suffering. This person just saw Star Wars for the first time or some shit. That's the only explanation. They just saw Star Wars and they were like, wow, this is cool stuff. I should reference every line of this in my fanfic upcoming. Oh. Suddenly, Sarah's heart skipped a heartbeat as she heard something that sounded like breathing. But it wasn't like any breathing she had ever listened to. This is fucking Darth Vader, isn't it? It was so hard, heavy, labored, forced, unnatural, and it was coming from right behind her. There was no denying that whatever was making that breathing was standing before her, so she turned around and prepared for the worst. Slowly but surely, Sarah nervously looked up and saw, 2 feet from her, the darkest, strangest, most terrifying image she had experienced in her life. The figure, while in a violet aura the mist had sent him from the darkness, was covered in some sort of black armor from head to toe, donning long boots made from strong armor, gloves made with unique iron, a belt with 3 boxes around its front, a floor-length heavy cape, a hermetic collar around his neck, and a shiny metal fish-faced... Fish-faced? Has anyone ever described Darth Vader's mask as fish-faced? Fish-faced. Short snout mask covering his face, with a helmet coupled on top to provide the rest of his head. On his chest was a breath repertory control panel, which directed the being's breathing to the mask so it could pass through. But Sarah wasn't aware of this. Then why put it in the story? Hanging on this figure's belt was some type of tool, and as far as she was concerned, Sarah didn't bother to ask about it. Sarah Jessica Parker Threehorn, I presume. Sarah, Darth Vader's classic phrase. It's the one he's known for worldwide. Luke Skywalker, I presume. No, this still isn't a troll. This isn't a troll fic. Hi, idiot with no taste. An idiot with no taste, I presume. Thank you for 22 months. The troll before time. This isn't a troll fic. Like, unless this gets, like... No, this is... I can't do James Earl Jones, shockingly. Is that what King Friday sounds like? A troll fic, I presume. I mean, at least Star Wars is actually here now. We were wondering where the Star Wars was in Chapter 1. It's here now. Anyway. Sarah Jessica Parker Threehorn, I would presume. The haunting image spoke in a very low, steady voice. Sarah was surprised to see that the mouth of the mask wasn't moving. But what she didn't realize was that the voice was coming from inside the mask. Where the fuck else would it come from? Hi, Kafka. Welcome to this Land Before Time Star Wars crossfic. Fuck it. Shivering, Sarah backed up a tiny bit and tried to speak calmly. Are you the guy Mako told me to see? Yes, the Spectre replied, and with that, he walked to the nearest cave wall, still speaking. And now we must move on. The future awaits you. The call is coming from inside the phone. Watch, Sarah, you have to get out of the house. We don't have a clown statue. But how can anyone find a way into the future? Sarah asked, still shaken from what was to come. That can't happen. It's impossible. The dark figure stopped next to the wall, still facing it, and turned his head towards Sarah for a few seconds. And who, pray tell me, gave you this unproven drivel? What's drivel? What's drivel? What's drivel? Sarah sniffed indignantly. My father, if you must know, she answered proudly. Then he is an ignorant, arrogant, pompous, overly critical, and stupid three-horn as well. Hey, Sarah said furiously, you can't just talk like that about my... She stopped. Well, that's what she questions. Yes, hello. You can't just say that about my... She stopped, remembering her recent comment on Littlefoot and his mother. Regret began dragging her back down into place. There are times when the truth can be painful, the Spectre put in. I can only hope you will remember and accept that, child. Does Darth Vader have to choke a baby dino? Yeah. Sarah, with the Spectre's words weighing her down, said nothing and nodded. The Spectre unhooked his tool, pressed his gloved hand into a button, and, to Sarah's surprise, a blade of red light emitted from the tool's emitter. That would be where it emits from, wouldn't it? From the emitter. I can't think of any other way that I would put that. That the light emitted from the emitter. This is how I know it's not a troll fic. No one on purpose could write something like that. No one is enough of a genius to write a blade of red light emitted from the tool's emitter on purpose. That is true fanfic writing right there. Then he drove the blade into the wall, carved a large circle of 3 meter wide and 2 meter high down to the ground, and deactivated the weapon. Sarah realized that not only this figure was a spirit of the future, he was the future. Hey, Vader man, you care to eliminate all the sharp tooths with the glowy blade? I mean, Kefka, you've seen more Land Before Time, no, you didn't see any Land Before Time. I've only seen the one, so like you're only one behind me. Also, yeah, Sarah Jessica Parker Threehorn is all you need to know from this. How does the dinosaur know what a meter is? There was no they're going in backwards order. We're starting with the future here. Like, Mako was Jacob Marley or whatever the guy's name is. And then I guess we're going future, present, past, or it's just going to be all future. I don't know. Then suddenly, another surprise came to her as light shined in the circle. The Spectre stepped inside it and turned to Sarah. Come with me, he said, without the slightest sound of command in his voice. What? Sarah, no longer feeling uncertain, complied and followed the Spectre to whatever lay ahead. Well, she thought, here goes nothing. Future, futurer, futurist. End of Act 2, Scene 1. Act 2, Scene 2. The Pain of... The pain of loss. I'm so happy I still had that image available. I'm so happy I still have that image on the screen. Hi, Juker. I didn't plan that. I just still had that picture on the thing. Hi, Professor Dog. Thank you for the 25 months with Prime. Oh. Oh, my God. Oh, I'm making myself laugh. Open the door. Get on the floor. Tim Buckley has no sense of tone. Oh, also, I got this is... Did it take a long what? This is the meme I was talking about the other day that I couldn't find. This was the meme I couldn't find from the other day. Did it take a long time to get that bow tie on? Did it take a long what? No, my cam is behind the picture, whatever. I did this. Did it take a long what? That joke's incredible. It's a good joke. Anyway, hi Juker. We're reading a Land Before Time Star Wars crossfic that is based on a Christmas Carol story. If that makes no sense to you, it doesn't to us either. Anyway, Act 2, Scene 1, The Pain of Loss. Or no, Act 2, Scene 2, rather, The Pain of Loss. As the two arrived at their first destination in seconds, Sarah followed the spirit out of the port. For a recap for anyone who's just joining us, Sarah from A Land Before Time is getting the Ebenezer Scrooge treatment because I guess she was kind of a dick to Littlefoot one time, and that's just as bad as being an exploitative capitalist. And so Darth Vader has showed up to show her the ghost of Christmas future. Or some shit. I don't know. She's a low-key Sith Lord. Anyway. Sarah followed the spirit out of the portal before it disappeared behind them. She looked around to see that they were in a more mountainous location. She never saw a place like this before. There were so many rock formations that they would have been difficult to climb for someone of her size. It must have taken a long time to change the conditions of these beauties. Is she gonna see her own fossil or something? I don't know. Wow, she said in disbelief and bewilderment. This is the future? Yes, replied the Dark Spectre in an uninterested way, seeing that he may have been familiar with these types of geology. More importantly, this is the near future. Sarah was confused by this statement. What do you mean, she asked. This is where the events will happen in the next few hours. The ghost of Christmas future took her up for like 5 hours. What? This is where the events will happen in the next few hours, when the bright circle nears its middle point in the sky. The spirit turned around and pointed at his right arm. Look. Knowing that there was something important to this, Sarah obeyed. She looked behind her and saw, to her surprise, 3 familiar faces. There stood Ducky, Petrie, and Spike on top of a cliff, which was above a big pond. The pond looked very deep, since it had a part where the water ran dark. Very dark. As dark as the mysterious Spectre himself. Sarah was about to call out to the others when the Spectre spoke up. Do not try to get their attention, child, he pointed out. These are only shadows, visions of the future. They cannot see, feel, or hear us. We are invisible to them. Now listen. I should add a channel point thing for my fucking expert Darth Vader impression. I'm just saying. Yeah, I don't know what Vader's doing. He's just being a dick. Sarah gave out a faint grunt of disappointment. But, however her shady companion would say to discredit her, she had to respect his wisdom. She looked down at the 3 other companions who were looking sorrowfully down from the edge of the cliff into the pond. Something seemed to be bothering them, but for what? Then she noticed something was missing. Something important. The question started conflicting in her mind. Where was Littlefoot? You will find him closer than you think. The Spectre answered, Sarah Jessica Parker 3 Horn, I presume. Jo? Yes. You will find him closer than you think, the Spectre answered. Sarah couldn't believe it. Did this ghost just read her mind? How did she know what she was thinking? Was he psychic or so? He's a fucking ghost! Who cares? However, focusing on the others, she didn't bother to ask. Suddenly, she heard Ducky, who was talking to Petrie while Spike was waiting to give them a lift up before leaving. Okay, oh Petrie, said Ducky, her eyes slowly welling up with tears. I cannot believe this has happened. No, no, no. Why? Why did this have to happen? Why did he have to leave us? She held Petrie in a because Cactus wanted it. I don't know, Constantine. Yeah, on the weekends, Vader just shows up to the land of the dinosaurs and he just is a dick to children dinosaurs. That's his hobby. That's what he does in his spare time. Anyway, no, no, no. Ducky said nope, 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 not no, no, no. Why? Why did this have to happen? Why did he have to leave us? She held Petrie in a tight embrace as she wept over the young flyer's left shoulder. Petrie, hoping not to let the hug squeeze him hard, placed his right claw lightly on Ducky's side for comfort. There, there, Ducky, he soothed, fighting back tears. It be okay. It be okay, huh? Petrie. That's the guy, that's the thing's name, right? It's spelled like this, but I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Petrie. I don't know. I haven't seen the fucking Land Before Time in 25 years. I don't fucking know. I said it right, okay. Fucking it be okay. At least Sharptooth gone and Littlefoot now in better place. Did Petrie talk like a caveman? I don't remember that. Huh. There is still time in Dino-cember to watch every Land Before Time movie. It's true. Whatever. Sarah gasped in an instant as she heard those last two words. She couldn't believe it. Littlefoot? Dead? She cried, her voice starting to crack. No! How could this happen? I see a Sharptooth down below in the pond, the spirit spoke in a... sorry. I see a Sharptooth down below in the pond. The spirit spoke in a grave tone, his head facing toward the three faces. And a young long neck beside him, both crushed by a large form of rock. In these shadows of the future remain unchanged. The child will give his own life for his friends, taking the creature with him. You mean he's down there? Sarah shuddered, looking at the pond below. Is this what you're telling me? The spirit didn't respond. He just turned his masked head towards Sarah for a few seconds, and then back to where he looked. Sarah's eyes were slowly filling up with tears again, but these weren't usual tears. These were tears of when... What? These were tears of when something terrible has happened, like losing someone. Someone very close to you. Does she like Littlefoot or not? Does she like Littlefoot or not? Like... Oh no! No, no, no! It can't be! You can't die! Not now! You just can't— Littlefoot! Her scream sent an echo across the canyons, which was unusual to occur in visions of the future. You got a point? Then she just collapsed to the ground, weeping harder than she had ever done. You cannot reach him, child, the Spectre finally responded, almost unsympathetically. He will soon be at rest. No, please, pleaded Sarah. I may have been a jerk to Littlefoot, but I didn't want him dead. I didn't want any of this to happen. What does it matter to you? The ghost inquired calmly. Flatheads are known to have very small brains. What's... Sarah, I am your father. We're not even the same species. I don't know how it works either. Whew, Sarah turned... Sarah turned to the spirit, staring at him in utter disbelief. She just realized what this figure, what this creature was doing to her. He was mocking her with her own words, but there was nothing she could do about it. She just placed her head down, tears already on the verge of hitting the ground. You will be fortunate, continued the spirit, that he will not suffer. He will die instantly. It shall be quick and painless. He's earned that much, unlike his mother. Why are you being a dick to Littlefoot's mom, Darth Vader? What does she do? What did she do? Whoever wrote this has some kind of vendetta against Littlefoot's mom. I'm glad she died, the bitch. Like, what the... That's not what it said. It's pretty clearly written. It's pretty clearly written. He will die instantly. It shall be quick and painless. He's earned that much, unlike his mother. Read a Skeletor, the next few sentences. Okay. He paused for a moment. And unlike yours. Sarah slowly turned her gaze back to the spirit, uttering that one word. What? Your mother is dead, child, the specter explained unemotionally. She has caught a sickness for some time. The same sickness that ended the life of Mako Loanshark. She died hours after the Earthshake. She now lies buried underneath the dirt of the mysterious beyond. No, Sarah thought as she took this news heavily. This can't be happening. First Mako, now Mama too? No, I can't believe it. She's not dead. She's not. Tell me this isn't real. It is useless to hope for things to be different, remarked the spirit, reading Sarah's thoughts. You would do well as to leave these weak souls to their fates and decrease the surplus population. Decrease the surplus population. What? What? Darth Vader is a fucking... Here's the... I'll read it as Darth Vader. No, I can't do the Skeletor voice for very long. This is a literal child, you dirty old man. Anyway. Fucking, where was it? It is useless to hope for things to be different, remarked the spirit after reading Sarah's thoughts. You would do well as to leave these weak souls to their fates and decrease the surplus population. That's what it fucking said. Okay? That's what it fucking said. The tears in Sarah's eyes grew cold and turned from tears of grief and sorrow to tears of anger and hatred. She placed herself back on her feet and looked at her host with defiance, breathing as heavily as he was. You jerk! She spat in an outburst. First you tell me Littlefoot's gonna die, then you tell me my mother's dead, and now you're telling me I shouldn't care? You monster! If anyone's gonna die, it should be you! Suddenly, Sarah felt something grab a hold in her neck. She couldn't see it, but it was slowly squeezing the life out of her. She tried desperately with her own front feet to release the grip of this invisible force. Then, as she laid her eyes on the spirit, she noticed a claw-like... The next few Sarah lines is MC. Okay. Does Vader gotta choke a bitch? Littlefoot. No. Fucking... Where the fuck was I? Okay, there we go. She noticed a claw-like gesture in his fingers as he pointed his right arm towards her. He was the one choking her. How he was able to unleash this sort of power was uncertain to her, but it was simply terrifying. Finally, after 11 to 13 seconds... Very specific. After 11 to 13 seconds, the spirit's fingers relaxed to a normal phase. Sarah gasped for breath as she dropped to the ground softly. Perhaps by now, said the specter, you will learn to beware my power, child. It would be best to keep a personal opinion towards someone to yourself, unless you would want to suffer the consequences. Sarah now understood what the ghost meant. If she wasn't careful in what she would say, even though it may be true, she would end up in major trouble. There was no telling what other abilities this masked figure might possess. But she still couldn't believe that her own mother had died 2 days ago, and she wasn't there to see it happen. Not to mention being unable to attend to the funeral. Perhaps she thought that if she hadn't wandered off, she would have been there for her mother. And perhaps Littlefoot's mother would still be alive and not killed by that Sharptooth. Perhaps Littlefoot would have been better off without Sarah at all. Oh, Littlefoot, I'm so sorry. Sarah did her best to fight back more tears as the spirit looked from behind her. As she turned in his direction, another portal had just appeared. She knew what was about to happen. Come, the spirit spoke. There are more visions to visit. Haven't we seen enough sadness already? Begged Sarah as she looked back at the crying Ducky, still under Petrie's comfort. They would concern someone else, and other people that you may be familiar with. Sarah sighed with reluctance. Okay, let's get on with it. I'm Killer MC. Mostly my sadness. Sorry, Sarah Jessica Parker MC. As the two entered the portal, Sarah was still deep in thought about how things could have been different, but the Spectre didn't seem to notice. It was obvious that he was going to show something to her. If this were so, then she would try to prepare herself for whatever may surprise her. End of Act 2, Scene 2. Act 2, Scene 3. Blackened Relief. Maybe there is just going to be the one vote. Or the one ghost. It's just going to be Vader. There's not going to be a ghost of present or past. I don't know. I'm guessing here. Anyway, Sarah was already depressed to see that the next vision that the spirit had taken her was located in a sulky spot. There was rain everywhere. It was pouring so hard that the dirt was quickly turned into mud. Oddly enough, Sarah and the ghost weren't getting wet. It was possible that the spirit was shielding the two from the rain with some of his dark, mysterious power, but Sarah didn't seem to care. Her mind was filled with regret and sorrow about what she saw in the previous vision. In fact, she was so deep in thought that she didn't notice the greenery around her. She didn't realize this, but the vision she was attending at this very moment was the Great Valley. Then, she noticed 3 figures walking right past her and the spirit in the rain. She recognized all of them almost instantly. Hey, Sarah spoke up, utterly startled. Isn't that Miss Miggins? And that guy looks a lot like Dr. Keenrick. Wait a minute, that's Nurse Janet. What are they doing here? Are these characters from like a future Land Before Time sequel, or are these OCs? I haven't seen any of them past the first one, so I don't know what fucking characters they introduced. Nurse Janet, I don't know. You will know once they have reached their little meeting place, the Spectre explained. Sarah might not have known those 3 very well, but her parents and Mako Loanshark certainly did. Miss Miggins, a middle-aged reddish ankylosaurus, clubtail, was a hard worker even in the days of her youth. She would use her club to make good statues from boulders to make a living. Her husband died some time ago, though she managed to keep on forward alone. Dr. Keinrich, an elderly blue Gallimimus, Longrunner, was a well-respected professor of medical science and coroner. In most days, he would give lectures to his students and show them how to save lives with either operating or strange medicine. He would sometimes operate on the recently deceased to find the mysterious cause of death. His assistant, Nurse Janet, was a bold yellow-green Dryosaurus, Smallbeak, who had no complaints on helping the good doctor with bloody tasks. Sarah would see that the stonecutter, the doctor, and the nurse from time to time, having conversations with her parents and Mako, usually on business affairs. Why is all this necessary to tell us? They were all there at Mako's funeral, and, as Sarah recalled, they didn't look completely saddened by the Strethamimus' death, especially Jubbs. Jubbs? Jubbs? Who's Jubbs? Oh, Jubbs was a local bartender who would sell... Tell us who Jubbs is before you say that. Jubbs was a local bartender who would sell drinks and other pleasures whenever the herd went off to and set up shop whenever they stopped. He would occasionally be working at the newly located cantina at nighttime, and Miss Miggins, Dr. Keenrick, and Nurse Janet often stopped by in those hours. Also, hello, Rejax. What's up? We are reading a Land Before Time Star Wars crossfic based on A Christmas Carol. Yeah, I don't recall the dinosaurs having, like, doctors and jobs and shit in the movie? I don't remember that. Like, this isn't Dinosaurs, the TV show. This is The Land Before Time. Or I thought they were just fucking dinosaurs in that movie. Not like anthropomorphic human dinosaurs. Whatever. Well, whatever those guys are going, mumbled Sarah, I'm sure Jubbs won't be far away. Follow me, said the ghost, and you shall see where they will stop at. After walking about a couple of yards, the spirit led Sarah towards a huge cave, and this was where the three associates had stopped. After a few seconds, a red, strong Hypsilophodon runner guard poked his head off and locked eyes with the three visitors. Why is he Scottish? Ach, you've arrived just in time, the guard spoke, rolling his R's. Jubbs is waiting for ye. Is it true that the wee one is pushing on flowers? Certainly so, my dear Willie, replied Dr. Keenrick. We're just here to prepare ourselves for tomorrow's big event. I can't do a Scottish accent, so I'm not even going to try. After he led his associates inside, the guard returned to his duty. Sarah was confused by the term pushing on flowers, but she didn't even bother to ask the dark spirit. Remember that these are but shadows of the things that will be, reminded the specter, so there will be no trouble of listening to what others would say without exposing ourselves. Come! I was also confused by the term. Yeah, in fairness, I think we were all confused by the term. Jubbs' cantina was filled with patrons of all kinds of dinosaurs, save for longnecks because of comparing their size to the cave. There were hot springs, gambling games, music, and beautiful waitresses serving the customers with drinks made of tree sweats, which would... There were hot springs, gambling games, music, and beautiful waitresses serving the customers with drinks made of tree sweats, which would be known in civilized times as fruit. Civilized times. Look. Oh, I know. Don't read the reviews. You'll ruin the surprise for yourself. I know, we've already got like 45 raid messages. It's great. I wasn't expecting this one to be this good. I'm gonna be honest here. Like, we might spend half the time just reading this fucking fanfic. There, standing in the bar and waiting for the associates, was old Jubbs himself. He was an orange and green striped Tapahara, which is a crest-headed flyer, and was still the same plum cantina owner as Sarah remembered. He really meant well for one of his kind. Of course, he never flew around all that much. Ever since he grew older and gained all that weight, he could... A fucking Homestar Runner reference! A fucking Homestar Runner reference! What? Ever since he grew older and he gained all that weight, he could only really fly 4 or 5 feet off the ground anyway. His name's a fucking Bubs, god damn it. Jubbs. Fuck you. But the Jubbs concession stand. Fuck. Jubbs, motherfucker! Yeah, shut up, kid! God, fucking, this actually is strong sad who wrote this. You were joking earlier, but you were right. No, it was originally made in 2009, so like, that is prime time for Homestar references. It was last updated in 2012. I don't know when all the chapters were written though, so, but either way, what the fuck? You know, hold on, I'm going into Nightbot real quick. I need to do something. How do you... I'm banning something. I'm not banning anything. No, 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 no. Ten-second cooldown. I feel like we need this in... I'm banning onion jumps. Yes. Right, did it work? There we go. Okay, there we go. I've added... I figure we need this in the stream. I figure this is a good addition to the stream. Well, I'm glad I get every fucking random ass Homestar reference. Yeah, it's the same idea as Famous. Anyway. Oh, that really caught me off guard. I was not expecting a Homestar reference to randomly be in there. That really threw me off. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, anyway. Anyway. Jub's Cantina was filled with patrons of all kinds of... Okay, no, I already did that. Okay. Anyway. Okay, but that didn't stop him from making business. Well, exclaimed Jubs in a hard and fast voice as the three associates approached him, if it isn't my old partners in crime, how's a little angel doing well today? Dead, replied Miss Miggins smugly. Dead and still as a rock. Yeah, agreed Nurse Janet, nodded. I thought that brat would never die so soon, that is. Jubs turned to Dr. Keenrick. Say, Doc, you're the one who found the cause of death. Tell us all about it. I have taken the liberty, explained the Gallimimus, of operating on the poor child. As I looked in, I found and examined an entirely empty digestive system, indicating that she had died of starvation only about a week ago. Pondered Bubs. Couldn't even keep the fake name, actually just started calling him Bubs. Oh man, always made me lose my appetite. Thank goodness Sir Passick put a stop to that old family tradition. All four associates chuckled slightly. Sarah listened very carefully and took all this in thought. The spirit was obviously aware of this, but the three-horn didn't seem to care. I don't understand, she said at last. I just don't get it. Isn't there any respect for the dead around this place? You have seen grief and sorrow connected with death, answered the spirit calmly. Now you will learn the exact opposites of these feelings. There are hardly things more petty and pathetic than lowly lived scum throughout this world. Shouldn't we be leaving now, pleaded Sarah. I don't want to see any more of this. You will see things for what they really are. The ghost was once again in a tutorial mood. Also, there are things you'll need to know from this conversation. Sarah sighed and listened to the associates once more. I mean, spoke Jubs, this is going to be one funeral I can't afford to miss. After all, we were always close to that one windbag. I just can't help but wonder, put in Miss Miggins, how cheap the gig will be. Not that much, I suppose. Well, shrugged Dr. Keenrick, when things come, you gotta go, I suppose. I just don't have the heart to tell that to the dear father. Speaking of hearts, smirked Nurse Janet, that brat won't need one to have a care about where she'll be going, I dare say. As the four laughed loudly, Jubs passed on a drink of pressed tree sweets. Oh, tree sweets! They meant sweets! That makes so much more sense than tree sweats. Oh! Okay, that makes a lot more sense now. Fuck you, Darth Will 3. The first time it was sweats. The first time it appeared, it said tree sweats, and I was really... Yeah. Jubs passed on a drink of pressed tree sweets in time for each of them. He raised his cup high for a toast. Here's justice for us all then, he jeered. She gave us a lot of headaches when she was alive, and by tomorrow we'll be dancing in her grave. Sarah winced intensely, hoping this terrible laughter would die out. How could anyone cheer for the death of a child? It was like seeing the vision of Littlefoot's death all over again. It made her sick. Now, child, spoke the specter, have you learned anything from this lesson? I think so, replied Sarah sadly. This girl, this kid, she must have been just as bad as me. You're a fucking idiot, Sarah. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Sarah! Pick up. She ain't picking up what he's putting down. The subtext is being missed here, Sarah. This kid must have been just as bad as me. My life is like hers, even now. Then she gave the spirit a puzzled look. But who are they talking about anyway? Mako's death was 3 months ago and my mother's just died. Who is this kid? I wonder who the child who died could possibly be. Does anyone in chat have any theories about who the kid who died might be? The brat that everyone hates and is happy is dead? Does anyone have any idea? Can anyone maybe... Oh, is that the spoiler that you got in the reviews? Yeah, it's probably Littlefoot. Or it's Caillou. It's probably Caillou. You shall find out in our final destination. After the spirit spoke, another portal opened in front of them, and as they entered, Sarah kept her eyes on Jubbs and the others drinking until it was all blank white. Final destination, huh? Can't say I'm gonna enjoy this, but it'll be worth the trouble finding out the whole mystery. End of Act 2, Scene 3. Give me a second, real quick. I'll be right back. I have already drank all of my water, and I feel like I'm gonna need it. BRB. You kidding me? I got a PhD in dying first round. I got a fucking PhD in that shit. Anyway, the Sabres jersey has been taken off because it's... You know, it's getting heated in here. It's getting exciting in here. Oh my god. Anyway, Act 2, Scene 4. Sabres. Sabres. Oh, Sabres. This is the Sabres of fanfictions. Exclamation point. Sabres. Anyway. Act 2, Scene 4. A New Light. The portal came to the very location, which was around 3 to 4/10 of a mile from Jubbs' cantina. Sarah and the spirit exited the gaping time hole. Does it have to be gaping? Darth Will 3, does it have to be gaping? The gaping time. Yes, that emote is me. And stood there until it was out of sight. It was night again, and the dark clouds had hardly lightened up. It had stopped raining. Not a single drop of water in sight was seen, though Sarah could tell from the ground that it was still wet. Fog lay everywhere. She couldn't see anything except her feet in the spirit's dark shape. She still heard his breathing, which was completely uncomfortable to her. "Where are we?" asked Sarah. We may have missed the girl's funeral," replied the ghost in his usual stern, toneless voice. "But we arrived just in time for the burial proceedings." The fog slowly lifted. Sarah barely managed to look ahead when she saw the two figures 5 meters ahead of her. One was a swimmer, the other an oviraptor, or fast runner. Judging by the constant movements, they were working on something on the ground. Sarah looked much closer and recognized a horrifying figure that she had not seen in 3 months. It was a burial bed, a recently dead sentience resting place. Much like the one where Mako Lone Shark had been laid to rest, only smaller. Someone was now taking a dirt bath. The expression is dirt nap. Not dirt bath. Fucking ferrets take dirt baths. There was a slab about 4 feet tall, set up as a tombstone. "Okay, Joe," said the swimmer in a gruff voice. "Think that'll do. Is the dirt flat enough?" "Sure is, Harry," replied the fast runner. "Couple of days or so and grass will be taking over this joint, if you know what I mean." Harry chuckled. "Yeah, I get your drift," he sighed. "And good riddance to her, too." "Come on, give her a break, man. She was just a kid." Harry grunted and then coldly responded, "Yeah, a kid who had to follow in her old man's footsteps." Joe pondered for a few seconds. Good point. Anyway, did you see how many came to this funeral? I sure did, man. About everyone in the valley was there. Imagine that. But the majority didn't even know the kid or her dad. Well, let's consider them lucky that they didn't. Otherwise, they'd have suffered severe boredom and intolerance. You know what that family's like. I hear you there, Harry. Joe stretched his arms and legs to get some stiff joints loosened. By the way, Jubbs is holding a secret celebration tonight at the cantina. Care to accompany me there? Sure thing, Joe, since I got nothing to do around here. Harry gave out a loud yawn. Let's go. Don't worry about the kid, smirked Joe, giving his friend a wink. She ain't going nowhere. The two laughed loudly, that's what that says, as they set off, leaving the mysteriously recent-made Grey alone. "Go ahead, child," soothed the ghost to Sarah. "You wish to know the identity of the deceased, and now you get the opportunity of doing so." Sarah, hesitant for a second or two, went forward a few steps. Then, a bit of uneasiness made her stop, and she turned her head back to the spirit. "Wait a minute," she reasoned nervously. "Before I go any closer, are these visions we've seen actually gonna happen? Or are they just possibilities?" A stream of red light came at her and stopped centimeters from her face, making her jump. She recognized the energy coming from the Dark Specter's weapon, which lay in his right hand. Though the mask completely hid his face, Sarah could tell that he was not looking happy. Don't test my patience," he growled softly. Startled by this spirit's method of encouragement, Sarah moved forward very slowly. The blade pointed right at the grave's direction, but she didn't need to be shown twice. She felt as if everything was going to be turned around at this moment. There was no doubt that it was all going to end very soon now, but she couldn't bear to hope for a piece of comfort in her heart. Okay, she thought, here goes nothing. Yeah, dinosaur metric system. You know, standard. She halted just inches from the dirt. Then she paused, wondering as to whether if the ghost wanted her to dig up the earth with her feet. To see whose rotting corpse was lying underneath her. To come face to face with the stupid little girl whose death brought so much happiness and relaxation to a few others. She looked back to the spirit, not asking with words, but expression, to see if this was what he was insisting her to do. The Black Phantom raised his pointing blade a little higher. Sarah looked in that same direction to see what he meant. It was not the body that needed uncovering, it was the tombstone. She did not wish to aggravate her host as to what was on that thing, so she did what she was commanded. Cautiously, after hearing the blade diminish from behind her as the spirit sheathed his weapon, she moved onto the dirt so as to not sink into it. She stopped in front of the stone as she looked into her own reflection. She stared very hard and tried to see what she could make of it. After what seemed to be minutes, she gave out a loud sigh. "This is no good," she said to the spirit, her eyes still fixed on the stone. "I can't see what you're trying to tell." Suddenly, thunder roared from above. A flash of lightning hit the tombstone from above. In that instant, Sarah saw her reflection turn into something else. It lasted only a few, about 2 to 3 seconds, but she got a full view of what it was. There stood the skeleton of a 3-horned hatchling. Like Mako's ghost, it wore a white gown and was fettered with a set of chains. As described by Mako himself, they were 3 times bigger, longer, and heavier than his. So heavy that this skeleton could barely move at all. In the eye sockets lay bright bulbs of emerald green for actual eyes. Sarah gasped, filled with dread. Those were her eyes! This was her skeleton! Those were her chains! And this grave, she realized, was her grave! "No!" she cried. "No! No! This can't be reality!" How did they make the chains? I don't fucking know. "I'm afraid it is," said the spirit, his voice slightly booming. "And now," he raised his arms slowly into the air, "prepare to meet your destiny!" The clouds boomed with thunder and flared lightning, with a louder and brighter effect. Suddenly, Sarah heard moaning coming from a number of directions. To the right, to the left, in front of her, behind her, and above her. Then it all came clear to her. Those were ghosts out there. More ghosts. Sure. "Oh, by the way, I'm the one who murdered you." Yep. Sure enough, the apparitions appeared before her eyes, much like Mako. They were all walking skeletons in rock-tailed chains and long white robes. However, they were of all different species. Long-necked, swimmer, 3-horned, spike-tail, flyer, sharp-tooth. The other kinds? Sarah was now trapped and listening to past woes of the specters. They were all in her head. "I never loved my children." That came from a mother. "I never stopped bothering the ladies." That sounded like the voice of a gentleman. "I never controlled my bragging or yapping." The voice was shrill, but clear enough to be heard. "I never lend a hand." That was more of a snore than a moaning. "I never stopped yearning from my brother's throne." No doubt that came from a dinosaur of royalty. "I never put an end to my appetite." A belching sound happened afterwards. "I never shared my prey." It was the talk of a sharp tooth. The dark spirits stood in their midst. "Observe and know their misery, Sarah Jessica Parker 3-horn," he said in a toneless voice. "They now seek to perform the deeds of mercy in matters of the living, but have lost the power forever. It is the curse that they bear." He pointed his right index finger at Sarah. "For which you shall share with them." "No," begged Sarah. "Please, I'm not that girl anymore. I don't want my life to end like this." Then in a flash, 6 long, huge chains emerged from beneath the burial mound, and one of them wrapped Sarah in its extremely cold grip, as if it were a snake's chip. Shadow Will, thank you for the follow. As if it were a snake's tail whose owner would use to strangle its prey, it dragged her swiftly towards its counterparts. She tried to slip away, her front feet placed firmly on the ground, but the chain was too strong for her. She was lifted into midair as other chains began making a strange formation. The middle 4 chains, shorter than the leading and tailing ones, had set themselves into a leg-like stance. The tombstone in the middle of the chains was lifted from the ground, and all at once it was standing like a living 4-legged animal. I don't know. Ham. The end of the lead chain was pointing right at Sarah as if it had a sort of stare to it. Sarah felt the chains around her transform to cold, leathery coils. She saw herself trapped around the 30-foot-long tail of what would now be known as a dragon? What? 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 Fuck, what? I don't know. The tombstone was made into this svelte body, which explained why it was positioned that way. Both the muscular hind legs and the... Oh, it's an actual dragon. Okay, I thought this was a metaphor. The grave just turned into a dragon. Okay. Why not at this point? Both the muscular hind legs and their slenderer but flexible front counterparts had claws that were good on keeping a firm grip while climbing. There was a giant pair of wings on its spiked back, both with a wingspan of 35 what? 35. They could bring the beast at such a great distance as long as it had a precise diet. 35 millimeters. The neck was 7 feet shorter than the tail, yet it gave the monster an altitudinal advantage. As for the head, it bore a slightly long belly dragger-like snout with jagged dentures bearing outside. There was a frill at the back with 2 long horns on the forehead and a smaller one on the nose. Most characteristically was a pair of big emerald eyes. Sarah realized now that she was confronting her own dark side. Her dark side's a dragon. It shattered her to the very core of her being, throughout all these visions to make her understand the dark spirit had turned her from a brave, prideful, headstrong young girl to a scared, feeble, contemptible, worthless little maggot. He had her broken. I met her in a cave down in Dagobah where it bubbles all the time like a giant carbonated soda. S-O-D-A soda. She might be using the I don't know. Then, after a roar, the dragon flung Sarah aside with its tail in such great force, sending her flying onto the ground. Sarah rolled and bounced like a ball until the momentum had ceased just 20 meters away from the monster. As she looked up, she saw it coming slowly towards her, the steps shaking the ground deeper than that of a sharp tooth. She turned to her left to see the ghost standing, his loud breathing still audible. "You gotta help me," she sobbed, water streaming fast down from her eyes into her cheeks. "I'll change, I'm honest." "There's no help trying to save your life with ridiculous pleas," replied the specter mercilessly. "You are no match for the power of the dark side." "I don't care about your power," Sarah was starting to get defiant, yet with sincerity as the dragon neared ever closely. "I just want to get out of here and make things right again. I'll do it for Daddy, for Mama, for Mako, for Petrie, for Spike, for Ducky." She choked back a sob before spitting out, "For Littlefoot. Just give me a little more time. Another chance. Please." Then the dragon was standing right in front of her. It opened its mouth to let amounts of blue energy fill, little by little, inside. "For King Baratheon. For Frodo. For Jobs. Onion Jobs." The energy was getting bigger and bigger and bigger before it was set as a cracking ball of horrendous lightning. Sarah shut her eyes and prepared herself for the final blow, believing that all now was lost. Suddenly, she heard the dark ghost activate his weapon and opened her eyes to see him approaching her with tremendous speed. What in blazes was he doing now? Just in time, he blocked Sarah's way as the dragon breathed the lightning in their direction. He placed... Is the dragon the fucking emperor? What? I don't know. The dragon's power was still launching its firepower, like rain pouring down from clouds, so it would be a while before this beast exhausted itself. Sarah, her tears lessening, couldn't believe what he was seeing. After all that this guy had done to her, what he said, he was defending her? Risking his life for her? This didn't make any sense. However, she saw that he wasn't completely as heartless as she portrayed him to be. There had to be good somewhere inside him, and he had just proved it to her. Several seconds had passed. The spirit deactivated his weapon, thrust out his arms, and began to deflect most of the lightning with his hands. As he did so, however, he suffered substantial damage inside the suit. He groaned. He winced. He could feel his life support system malfunctioning. The pain was excruciating, but he managed to hang on and maintain his defense. Sarah watched as her black-clad host used his power to create an invisible shield against the lightning in front of her. It was incredible, but she wasn't immune to the painful moans he was giving out. Why is Darth Vader fucking dying? Like, he's a ghost. Banned from Twitch. She could see his skull highlight and illuminate from inside the helmet, along with what looked like a spinal cord, which had some kind of strange device implanted to it. She felt that he had to do something to help him, but then again, she wasn't as experienced as he was. The ghost walked forward, his shield forced even closer to the dragon's mouth. His billowing cloak blocked the sight of the entire body agonizing from the lightning's noticeable side effects, thus sparing Sarah further worry. With all of his strength, he immediately released his grip, and the lightning erupted in a burst of white light. Sarah shielded her eyes from the blinding force, unsure of what was gonna happen next. But within seconds, there was absolute silence. End of Act 2, Chapter 4. Or Scene 4. Act 2, Scene 5. Sarah woke up with a start. She looked around. Her heart raced with such anxiety. She was back in the cave where she had been sleeping. The water was still there, rushing by non-stop. What the fuck? The skeletal ghosts were gone. Their wailings were gone. The chains were gone. The dragon was gone. Its deadly eyes were gone. Its electrical power was gone. Most importantly, the dark spirit was gone. His glowing crimson weapon was gone. His masked, cloaked, and armored presence were gone. And his incessant, haunting breathing was gone. Was this all just a sleep story? Had it all been real? Sarah couldn't tell. As to the masked phantom's knowledge of the death of her mother, she didn't know whether it was all a trick to get her so depressed or not. Then again, she had been aware of her mother's condition for the past few days. Perhaps her fate was inevitable. Yes, a sleep story, a dream. In civilized times, they'd call it a dream. Hey, I'm glad we've got at least one good fic. Like, is this fanfic stream just a sleep story? When we find a good one, we stick to it. It's just rare that we find a good one. This might be the only time ever that we started with a good one. These dinos are so uncivilized. Can't believe it. As to the masked phantom's knowledge of the death of her mother, she didn't know what... Okay, Sarah lowered her head, eyes shut tight. It was true. Deep down inside, even though she wasn't actually there to witness it, she knew it to be true. Her mother was gone. But other than that, she had learned something very important from what she might have seen last night. As the apparition of Mako Lone Shark had told her 2 days before, she still had a chance to escape this fate. To escape the others' fate, she now realized. It wasn't too late. Just then, she noticed a bit of light coming from a creak of a cave. Can that be? She didn't want to finish that thought just yet, for she was running up the slope where she had just come down hours before. She stopped to see the scattered blotches of tar from the pit that Littlefoot, Ducky, Spike, and Petrie had donned near the volcanic landscape to scare the dome heads away from her. She definitely did not want to slip on it again, so she carefully sidestepped before continuing that way. Run, it's Omega! Yeah. There was a bigger glimpse of light coming from Sarah's left, so she took a chance to see if this was the opening to a cave. As she came closer, she became more excited. She was right, it was a cave entrance. Once outside, she looked at the blue sky. The bright circle was just rising up. Even if there were a couple clouds in the way, she could still see it. It was early morning. Tears filled her eyes again. This time they were tears of joy. She couldn't have felt any happier in her life. Yes, she was still alive. Alive to see the light of another day and the spirits that had given her another chance. I wish the guys could see this right now, she thought. It's so beautiful. Littlefoot would probably want. Her mind stopped cold for the next few seconds. Sarah suddenly remembered. The events will happen in the next few hours when the bright circle nears its middle point in the sky. The words of the black ghost rang in her head. Looking back on what had been said, she started to think clearly. In the next few hours. Littlefoot's gonna die, and Sharptooth will be there. Oh no, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? I just wish I knew where to start in. Ceasing her panic, she remembered Littlefoot's words from yesterday. Sarah, we have to keep following the bright circle. Jesse, we have to cook. We gotta follow the bright circle, Jesse. We gotta do it. Sarah's eyes went wide in realization. This answered everything for her problems. She ran in the aforesaid... Is that a word? Aforesaid? I know aforementioned. Is aforesaid also a word? I guess it still works. Technically, I guess that works. With a renewed fire in her eyes. It might be a long way ahead to the canyon she saw in her vision, but she prayed that it would be worth the journey. She still had time. Hang on, Littlefoot, there's no way you'll get killed. Not while I have anything to say about it. End of Act 2, Scene 5. Final chapter, Act 3. The only scene of Act 3. Sarah looked at Littlefoot and Spike and shook her head sadly. He was my friend, sniffed Ducky. Poor Petrie. Sarah glanced at the little swimmer and back at the boys. It was best if the four-footers left her alone for a while. As she joined Littlefoot and Spike to see a few meters down the cliff from what she saw in her dream, they stopped. Then she turned away, not allowing the others to look back and see the tears running down their eyes. This wasn't supposed to happen. If she had arrived a few seconds earlier, if she'd been fast enough, if she'd stayed with the gang after the tar monster scare, none of this could have occurred. Petrie would still be alive. Yeah, Shakespeare used 5 acts. This story only needs 3. Because it's so concise and well written. Concise and well written. Yeah. I don't know. Whew. Then a distant roar sent a shiver down her spine. She knew all too well what made it. Sharptooth. After hearing another roar, Sarah now knew which direction the predator was heading. She had to act fast. Littlefoot's life was hanging in the balance. As she made it to the top of the hill, she looked up at the bright circle. It was slowly moving to the middle of the sky, just as the black ghost had predicted. Fortunately, she could see everything from her viewpoint. All the features were just as she had seen in the vision. Perhaps that weird adventure last night really did happen after all. But whatever wonder Sarah had was replaced by fearful realization when she looked down. She spotted a boulder on the edge of the cliff, which was standing over a dark pond. It was a long way down there to make a splash, and that splash had to either be stopped or postponed. Sharptooth's fate was inevitable. She saw Littlefoot and Spike behind the boulder. It was obvious they were up to something. Petrie was on a certain rock hole at the left side of the cliff. What would he be doing there? Sarah wondered. He couldn't fly. Suddenly, she heard Sharptooth. She looked to her right and found him exiting a nearby cave. He slipped onto the ground and slid down the slope, hitting the pond face first. Due to his little arms, he couldn't swim, but he was able to avoid the deeper part of the water. Ducky! Sarah heard Littlefoot shout. Ducky! That came from Petrie. Sarah's fears grew all the more. Ducky was too small to be seen from her vantage point, but she knew that Sharptooth was after the little swimmer. As she ran down the hill towards her destination, she heard Petrie whistle as she was... Yeah, where's Spike? What happened to Spike? Poor Rip Spike. I guess. Oh, here it is. Then she saw what was happening. Littlefoot and Spike were pushing the boulder with their heads. It was too heavy, but they were trying their hardest to make sure it was going to hit Sharptooth's head. Push, Spike! Littlefoot cried out. Push with all your might! So that's what they were planning. Sarah touched down a shorter height of the ridge, connecting to the level ground the boys were on. But she needed to do was run up and join in, thus sparing Littlefoot his fate. The trick was getting crossing over the many rocks in the path. It was slippery, but she had to try. It was a good thing that she could still see what was happening. As she crossed the first section, the foundation shook the cliff. She could feel the little tremors from beneath her. Another earth shake? No, it was Sharptooth. He hit the cliff so hard the force knocked Petrie out of his hole. Sarah couldn't see where he landed, but she knew it couldn't be good. Then again, he was still alive during the vision. What's happening? Every rock she crossed was getting increasingly difficult. She could barely keep on her toes in place. At least she was making fast progress. Just then, another roar from Sharptooth was heard. Sarah saw Petrie rising to the cliff, stopping right behind the boulder. But he wasn't exactly stopping. His wings were flapping. He was floating in midair. He was flying! What the fuck? He was flying? The fucking pterodactyl was flying? What the fuck? I'm flying! I'm flying! He yelled hysterically. Sarah couldn't believe it. Perhaps Sharptooth's roar as well as his breath. This guy stinks! Oh, I'm a broken man. It's true. It's true. Could not fly. Smelled bad breath. Now can fly. Coincidence? I think not. It's gonna take more than this. Yeah, you ain't seen nothing yet. You ain't seen nothing yet, baby. Alright, we're good. Perhaps Sharptooth's roar, as well as his breath, pumped Petrie's wings full power or something. She would have to take back calling the little flyer an invalid when they lived through all this. Sharptooth rammed into the cliff again. That almost knocked Sarah off her feet, as it nearly did to Littlefoot and Spike. But it wasn't stopping her from walking to another rock. She was almost out of the pile now. Every step she made was making allowed her to see the action a whole lot closer. Then Petrie was seen diving toward Sharptooth, whose head Ducky was on after emerging from the water. He grabbed the lid of the monster's right eye, which was a bit sore after that thorn it had received a few days ago. Sharptooth lurched back trying to get the perceived parasite off its head. Sarah reached the last rock and then hopped off. She was finally out of the obstacle. As she moved off, she saw Sharptooth make a great jump off the cliff with its long wings. Wait, what? As she moved off, she saw Sharptooth make a great jump up the cliff with its long wings and land into the... Oh, okay. Wings? Sharptooth didn't have wings before, Sarah was certain. But then, the neck grew The neck grew longer, followed by the arms, tail, and snout. 2 horns protruded from its forehead, and another from the nose, followed by a frill on the back of the head. Spikes appeared on Sharptooth's back. Both of the creature's eyes opened. They turned from red to emerald. Sarah stood frozen, fear taking over. It wasn't Sharptooth anymore. It was that dragon from her vision. The very dragon that represented everything that was evil about her was back. Were her eyes tricking her? How was this possible? This creature was destroyed by the masked specter. Or was it? I really don't know. Was it? Whatever she might think, Sarah knew that she had to face this dragon alone. Her host would not be there to protect her this time. It was time to put an end to this once and for all. Use the force, Sarah. She ran down the slope, giving out a loud shriek and screaming, "I'm coming!" The dragon heard Sarah and was completely speechless for a few seconds. That pause would prove very costly. Well, it's almost over, but like... I'd love to see... There's not very much left here. I don't know how they're going to end this in such a short space of time. This is going to be an alternate ending to Babe moment, I think. "Sarah!" exclaimed Littlefoot. "You're back!" Of course she was back. Didn't he realize that she was saving his life? His live. Live. The dragon tried to get its jaws on Sarah, the blue lightning emanating and crackling from inside its mouth, but the surge caused it to jolt. Having Petrie poking its eye wasn't helping at all either. Sarah fell, but managed to grab onto the end of the crumbling rock about 2 meters below just in time. Otherwise, she would have been a goner. She jumped and pulled herself up to the top. Suddenly, she heard a yell coming from below. She, Littlefoot, Spike, and Ducky looked down in horror as the dragon clashed its lightning-blazed teeth on Petrie's right wing, taking with him into the pond. The monster hit the water on its back, and a second later, the boulder crashed into its stomach. For what sounded like a big splash to Sarah, looked like an enormous wave of azure energy. It surrounded the gorge in the form of clouds that reached the... It surrounded the gorge in the form of clouds that surrounded the gang before sinking back into the pond. It was incredible. Incredible! Sarah looked at the others to find that they weren't having raised concerns. It was like they didn't notice Sharptooth changing into the dragon, or the explosion. So it was only in her head. She took an internal breath of relief before looking down to find Petrie. Seconds passed, and all anyone could see from emerging from the water were bubbles. It was painfully ironic to Sarah. She saw what was going to happen into the future, but she didn't see that the consequences of changing it would not bring satisfactory answers. No, Sarah thought as she whimpered silently. No, this isn't right. I saved Littlefoot just to let Petrie die instead. Why couldn't the stupid flyer get out of the way? She didn't want to think about how Petrie's mother, 2 brothers and 1 sister would take it when they find out about what happened to him. He mentioned them at least once during the trip, though she didn't pay much attention. Maybe she could just echo a few of the Dark Phantom's words on what he said about Littlefoot's what would have been fate, but in a lighter way. He didn't suffer, she practiced mentally. He just learned how to fly, and he died a hero. I'm sorry I wasn't able to. Stop! Sarah snapped out of her thoughts instantly. That voice. Could it be? You go without Petrie? Littlefoot and Spike turned their heads around almost a second after Sarah. There stood a young, brown, extremely wet flyer at the edge of the cliff, 1 meter away from Ducky. He dropped on his back, exhausted. Ducky was so happy, she rushed over to grab her resurfaced friend. Petrie, she cried, squeezing him a little too tightly. You're safe! Sarah could notice Ducky's tears of joy as she ran toward her and the others, ranting, Yep, 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 yep. Yep, 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 yep. Yep, 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 yep. That's what Ducky said all the time, just saying, yep, 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 yep. That's what Ducky's well known for saying. As everyone crowded over Petrie, unable to stop laughing like crazy, Sarah felt the immediate guilt inside her rush away. Even if she couldn't stop Petrie from falling into the pond, he was somehow able to get his wing out of Sharptooth's dead mouth all by himself. It was best to ask him later. Then, Sarah remembered another thing she couldn't escape from. Her chains. Mako Loanshark said he got his own Mako Loanshark said he got his own set by greed he held in life. She now saw that pride was her sin, mirroring that of her father. And that crime alone got Littlefoot's mother killed. Changing the future may have made Sarah's chains lighter, but they weren't likely to break and disappear forever. The links were still pretty strong. She couldn't talk to Littlefoot. She didn't have the courage for that. If her mother was still alive, she would talk to her first, as she always did whenever she had big problems. Moving quietly away from the others, Sarah headed to a large section of rock. For a moment, she thought she see her shadow, taking the form of the tall black spirit, his cape billowing in the wind, his masked face looking to torment her even further. The end? What? That's the end of the story. That's